I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone.
Good evening. This meeting is being held in accordance with the schedule of meetings adopted at the organizational meeting held January 6, 2021. Adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Kenilworth Board of Education has been provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, the local source, on January 8, 2021. A copy has been filed with the Kenilworth Borough Clerk, posted in the Board Office and the Borough Hall, the Brearley and Hardy Schools as provided by the Open Public Meetings Act. COVID-19 compliance was updated on December 14, 2020. This is an in-person meeting. The meeting location has been moved to the David Brearley Cafeteria due to COVID-19 modifications to the indoor capacities issued by the state of New Jersey. In-person participation is limited due to the social distancing requirements and the size of the meeting room. The Board of Education therefore has calculated that 30 members of the public will be able to participate in person. In accordance with Board of Education Bylaw 0164.6, remote public board meetings during a declared pandemic, in an effort to encourage and increase public participation, the meeting will be live streamed. The public will be able to view live via YouTube live stream. The link will be available at 7:30 p.m. by clicking on the Board of Education tab on the Kenilworth District homepage, then the Board of Education YouTube channel tab, where you will be able to see the live stream icon. If members of the public are unable to attend the meeting in person and do not have internet access to watch the live stream, they will have an opportunity to call in to listen to the meeting. Members of the public requesting this accommodation must request to do so by 3 p.m. prior to the meeting to obtain the call-in information and passcodes. Please direct attentions to Ms. Sandel. Public comment will be accepted as follows: electronically via email at publiccomments@kenilworthschools.com. These messages must be received by 4:00 p.m. on the night of the meeting. All emails received by the deadline will be read during the public comment section of the meeting. We also accept in person at the meeting venue during the public comment section of the meeting, and also you can call in to the meeting venue at 908-931-9696, extension 2325, during the public comment section of the meeting. For the record, please include your name and address on all comments. In accordance with the Board of Education Bylaw 0155.1, board member participation at a board meeting using electronic devices. Board members will have an opportunity, if needed, to participate via Zoom meeting platform.
Can we please rise and join me in saluting the flag? I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Canales, can you roll call?
Hey, Vince,
Yes.
can you check that mic that you were just talking at? Because you sounded really distant when you were doing your talk, so I don't know if it's, I mean, I could hear you maybe just because you were talking loud, but
Any thoughts?
it didn't sound like it was coming through.
Couldn't hear me too well at the mic. Everyone could hear me, right?
Yeah, it was a little faint.
Just raise the volume a little bit, we'll check it. Maybe that will after we'll post it back.
Okay. I guess Kyle will be next to speak, so we'll gauge it from him and then,
I found it difficult to understand.
right.
All right, roll call. Feynman. Here. Braun.
Here.
David.
Here.
Drogan.
Here.
Tabitha. Here. Jankowitz.
Here.
Ladati.
Here.
Sinisi.
Here.
We have quorum.
The receiving of the minutes for January 6th and January 11th. Can we please have a motion to accept the minutes?
Second.
By Mr. Habersham, can we have a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ladati. All those in favor of receiving the minutes, please say aye.
All right.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Ganella, do we have any correspondence for this evening?
Yes, we do. The following correspondence. We have a letter from New Jersey School Boards Association regarding the Union County meeting minutes. We have a letter from myself and to Assemblyman Bamerick from the Kenilworth Board of Education regarding Chapter 44. Also a letter to Assemblywoman Munez regarding Chapter 44, and a letter to Senator Thomas Kane regarding Chapter 44. We also have emails from the legislative liaison, Lisa Allen, to myself regarding Assemblywoman Munez and Chief of Staff regarding the discussion, possibly having a discussion regarding the Chapter 44 discussion. We have a thank you note from Mrs. Forling to Dr. Panici and the Board of Education regarding the appreciation for providing lunch to the staff a couple weeks ago. And finally, we have a David Brearley flyer from Michelle Van-Skinnicker to the Board of Education regarding a stay-at-home play on 2/12/21.
Thank you, Mr. Ganella. Can we please have a motion to accept the monthly correspondence?
I make a motion to accept the monthly correspondence.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Mrs. Droge, seconded by Mrs. Braun. All those in favor of accepting the public correspondence, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Arlington, Superintendent's report and presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. To help introduce Mrs. Folgar and our 6th grade student council members who are being spotlighted tonight, please introduce Mr. Bogowski.
Do I just stand and talk, or should I come up to the microphone? You got it. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm proud to announce Harding Student Spotlight this month is our student council. And I'd like to introduce Ms. Gina Folgar, who is our student council advisor, who's going to talk a little bit about what some of the great things our student council does at Harding. And she brought some of our student council members along via Zoom to share their experience. Mrs. Folgar?
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for having us. I'm Gina Folgar and I'm the advisor for the Harding School Student Council. I've been working with Student Council for about 10 years now at Harding, and I'm always so proud of the work that the students do for this program every year, and this year, as different as it might be, is no different in that. We're taking on new challenges and reinventing older ideas to make them work in the virtual setting that we're in now. With us tonight are some of the 6th grade members, and they would like to share a little bit about themselves and shed some light on what we're doing this year. So from what I'm seeing right now, one of our students is not here, so he might have not been able to get on or wasn't able to attend last minute. So I'll read his part, and I'll just introduce each student as they come, and then you'll be able to hear a little bit about what they have to say. So first we'll start off with Gia Perosi.
Hi, I'm Gia Perosi, and I've been in student council for 3 years. We've been making motivational messages monthly to share with the school. Each student council member makes a sign for their word or their phrase. All of the pictures are combined to share a motivational message with the community. We hope that the messages brighten everyone's day.
Thank you, Gia. So this next portion I will read. This was what Jaskaran Singh, a 6th grader, would like to share with everybody. He wanted to talk about how this is his 2nd year in student council, and this year our spirit wear sale is going to look a little different. We hope to have school spirit wear on sale later this year, and it's a lot of fun because it's a great way to connect with other students in the school and to show school spirit. So that's what Jaskaran wanted to share. And next I will introduce Noelle Crane.
I'm Noelle Crane, and this is my 1st year in student council. Around the holidays in December, we wanted to help kids that didn't have a lot of joy around Christmas time. We decided to start Toys for Tots fundraiser. In just a few weeks, Harding School raised $453.93. The fundraiser was successful because we raised a great amount of money, very close to our goal.
Thank you, Noelle. Next up, I'd like to introduce Elijah Lopez.
Hi, I'm Elijah Lopez, and this is my 1st year in student council. My brother was in student council for many years, and I'm so happy to
follow in his footsteps. This year, we have to set some high goals for ourselves. We look forward to raising awareness and raising money for organizations that are so important. 2 organizations we hope to fundraise for this year are Animal Shelters and Feeding America.
Thank you, Elijah. Next up, we have Zoe Stout.
I'm Zoe Stout, and this is my first year in Student Council. This year, we'll be doing our annual Hero Squad fundraiser through the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. It used to be called Pennies for Patients. In just over 10 years, Harding School has raised over $35,000 for the program. Even though it will be all virtual this year, we know that we will reach our fundraising goals.
Thank you, Zoe. And last but not least, we have Alexa Rivera.
I'm Alexa Rivera, and this is my first year in Student Council. We are working this year to come up with different activities and ideas to keep Harding community, school community positive and hopeful. Our motivational messages have been so successful, and we want to work towards finding ways to put smiles on everyone's faces. We know that Student Council can bring happiness even in these difficult times.
Thank you, Alexa. So we really just wanted to thank the board, administration, and the Kenilworth community so much for always supporting Harding School Student Council all of these years. I just had a meeting with a representative from Hero Squad, and she was blown away by the fundraising that our students do every year. This is by far our biggest fundraiser, and the students in our meeting tomorrow are going to get an opportunity to meet with our representative and really talk about how we're gonna fundraise this year and take on all of the changes that we now have. And I'm sure they're going to be just as successful as they are every year. So we're going to continue to work hard, bring smiles, and bring awareness each year. And once again, we wanted to thank you so much for having us on tonight. We're so happy to share what we've been working on this year and what our goals are.
Thank you.
Well done.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, 6th graders. It's really great to see how you're still trying to work to build community in our school district despite the pandemic. So we appreciate all your efforts and look forward to all the great work you're going to accomplish this school year. So thank you, Ms. Folgar and council members. We appreciate it. I think Mr. Gunnell is going to politely resume. Awkward silence.
Sorry, I was waiting for you for the school data. The PDA.
Yeah, okay. Can you see if they can hear you? I'm trying to say this.
Can the board members and ML at home hear me, or?
No, I can't hear.
Can we try to talk from there?
Yeah, you might want to place closer.
How about now? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that's really better.
Okay, great. So as you know, each year, twice a year, school districts are required to report out on their school safety data system results, which measure things like HIV cases and really shine a spotlight on our school climate and culture. This year, we don't have that much data to report out because of our hybrid/remote status, right? So you know that the only, I think, HIV incidence we have on record this year is an unfounded case at Brewery. So in the past, what I've done is try to dig into that data and then sprinkle in some of the sort of interventions we have in place to improve that data. But tonight I thought we would reframe that a bit and shine a spotlight on all the good work that Mr. Davies, Mr. Banowski, and Ms. Kupalo are doing as it relates to our school culture and climate. So they're going to speak to you a little bit about some of our social and emotional learning efforts and the ways we're trying to enhance and put a construct around school culture and climate. Without further ado, they're going to present.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay. Good evening again.
Good evening.
So one little fun fact while Mr. Arlington's getting our PowerPoint ready is, last week the state of New Jersey came out with a report that back in August, they anticipated a huge population of students in crisis for this school year. And in response to that, school districts around the state, along with our own, put a lot of safeguards in place and kind of got ahead of that. And we're very happy to announce that the state of New Jersey reported that those numbers were way below what they anticipated because of all the work that we are doing in the schools. So that's something certainly to celebrate. Things that we put in place at Harding School to kind of combat these things is we have a SEL curriculum called Second Step. And last year we did about a half hour a week of lessons in the classroom, homeroom teachers talking with their students on these various topics that are covered in Second Step. This year, we upped that to 30 minutes a day. This way, our teachers and our students could dive deeper into that curriculum. And Second Step also put out a supplemental curriculum dealing with certain topics just related to the pandemic that we covered in September. So that was a big help, getting our students back into the building, back on Zooms from last spring. Better? So also, our counselors do a lot of hard work in the classroom with our students. They get into the classrooms and do lessons, but more importantly, on an as-need basis, they'll pull individuals for counseling, and they'll also do group meetings with students as needed. So that gets kids in front of someone that they could talk to, they can confide in, and get solutions to whatever they're dealing with. New this year is, a lot of our students are virtual, or part of their day is virtual, and they need that connection. So our counselors and our child study team came up with our Harding Hangout, and in our Harding Hangout, students have a place where they can get homework help, they can ask questions, they could just, sit there and talk to someone if they want. So they're making connections there. And then also there's a fun hangout where they can play structured games with our guidance counselors and our child study team. So that's fun. And I think one of the most important things in the school day, whether the students are in Zoom or in the classroom, are our morning meetings. This is where students get to connect with their teachers, talk about those SEL lessons that they learned about, and then, just talk about their feelings, maybe what's going on in the day. And a lot of things get flushed out there where if a counselor is needed, they can come to the classroom and address any type of concern that maybe is going on in the classroom. HIB at Harding, again, our Second Step program really does a good job at this, teaching empathy and kindness and bullying prevention. Our counselors go around, Kids Against Bullying pledge. They make sure that the kids know what bullying is, the difference between bullying and the difference between conflict. This way the kids know the difference. And if they are getting bullied, how to report it. Or if they see someone getting bullied, what should they do? So these are very important steps. Also, a sense of school community that combats bullying. We have Officer Phil come in. Officer Phil does a good job with a lot of different conflicts that kids deal with, but bullying is one of them. And then for our younger students, we have Blue Sky Puppets come in and they do a puppet show on anti-bullying. And then we have our Spirit Weeks a random act of kindness, week of respects, that just has that school community feel to it, and just, you know, gives a sense of what a Harding citizen should, how they should act.
Good evening, everybody. Hi. Jeremy Davies, principal, and I just wanted to pick up where Mr. Bobnowski left off with Brearley and our social emotional learning frameworks. There's a number of things that we've done initiative-wise at Brearley. But what I want to focus mostly on that slide is towards the bottom, the student wellness check-in survey that we did. Obviously, with the fall starting off, we recognized that there were a lot of needs of our students. And so Ms. Kukolo and the counseling team did a lot of work to develop a wellness check-in survey and gave us a lot of good data. And I think that was really key for us to have all that data. We had close to 500 students fill out that survey, which, as student surveys go, that's really high for any school. So we had a lot of participation in that survey. And what that enabled us to do is two things with that data. Number one, it helped us rethink some of our instructional practices. We were recognizing that there were some barriers to learning from a learning standpoint, and that survey really helped us identify what some of those barriers were, and we actually carved out time with our faculty to, right before Thanksgiving, to rethink some of what we were doing, and we had some professional learning focused on that. And that came directly out of the wellness survey from students. The other thing that we were able to do is really look at the data from our students and think about what counseling groups would best serve the needs of our students and support them through the pandemic, through the learning experience that they were having at Brearley. And so our counselors have done a great job of identifying those needs and creating counseling groups for our students focused on different issues. So there are 4 groups running at the middle school and 4 groups running at the high school. And those are getting underway right now, and counselors are meeting with students to address those needs and so forth. So that's really the social and emotional learning frameworks at Brearley, along with a number of other initiatives. In terms of HIB, we've done a lot of work this year on school climate. And so much about harassment, intimidation, and bullying prevention has to do with the way in which your school climate functions. And so we wanted to feed that climate a lot. So our climate team meets monthly, and we discuss the tenor of the building and the way in which our teachers are interacting with students, making sure that our students are feeling like they have a connection to the school. And so we have a number of initiatives that are working towards that. We're working right now to become a No Place for Hate school, which is a designation administered by the Anti-Defamation League, and that would be a nice thing to pursue. What you have to do is you have to run several different initiatives in your school, and then the ADL will designate you as a No Place for Hate school. So we're working towards that right now. We also have 2 assemblies coming up. Both with Dr. Michael Fallon, who is a psychologist and presenter. He's going to do one presentation with our middle school students and one with our 9th and 10th graders. And his focus is on unmasking some of the masks that we all wear, and then appreciating and respecting the different diversity that we all bring to a school. And it's a way to get kids to really feel comfortable with our building, comfortable with themselves, and having each other appreciate each other. So we have him coming up in a couple weeks, and then from there we're going to be doing some other what we're calling Unity Through Diversity initiatives to really build the school climate of Brearley. And I think these are more long-term goals of if we can address the climate and culture of our building, we can see a reduction in HIB cases and improvement in the general culture, and also maybe a reduction in any discipline infractions that really aren't happening this year because of the pandemic, but obviously with a middle school and a high school, they happen. So those are our 2 really main thrusts with HIB at Brearley.
Mr. Davies, I just have a question. Do
Sure.
you have any intention of maybe giving the survey again?
Yeah,
Like maybe
absolutely.
when they're in person and then comparing the results to kind of look at if there's any change?
Yeah, I think that's the key. You have to, in order to see growth or change, you need to resurvey and use the same questions and see if there's any, hopefully we'll see a change. And we also want to get more specific with the survey questions. This particular survey was really focused on pandemic-related questions, but down the road, we want to survey kids with those kind of school climate-y questions of, do you feel connected to school? Do you have that one trusted adult that you can go to? And those kinds of questions we want to add to our survey. So yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Sure.
Also, with regard to the student surveys, we did one last spring, May into June, and that actually informed our summer groupings for social and emotional learning support. So we would like to do the survey at least twice a year.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So from a district perspective, you can see, you've been hearing a lot about all of the at the building level to enhance staff training. We have extra supports in the building through Care Plus, and we have interns. We also have support group discussions and training groups for staff and parents. We're enhancing our school climate and culture team trainings. We're increasing SEL across all of the grade levels in terms of lessons and resources and programs, assemblies. Our crisis teams in both buildings has begun to be more proactive as a result of all of the interventions that we're putting in place because we know the population a little bit better. Going to the next one. In December, we completed, as we do annually, an HIB self-assessment. These are some of the needs that we identified through that process across the buildings, and these are some of the steps that we've taken in response. So one of the things that we noticed is that the school culture and climate team could take on more of a role to help drive some of these initiatives in the building and also inform some of our planning. We knew that the parents needed more HIB resources, so we developed a slide deck and an FAQ sheet for parents. Student training needed to include a little bit more of character education and HIB awareness and prevention. And in response to that, we have character ed and class assemblies being held at both buildings. And then really what we're trying to do is look ahead and be more proactive for next year. So if you go to the next slide, this is actually just a sample calendar, but the idea is that in the spring and summer, our counselors and administrators will sit down and take a look at the year in advance. There are lots of international and national themed awareness days and celebrations. We'd like to incorporate our full year calendar with those events. And we also want to plan out in advance things like the universal screenings, HIB self-assessment, and any responses we have to any of the reporting and investigations that we do. So again, this is just a sample. Some of these activities we've celebrated before, some would be new to us. This is an example of the diversity that we hope to celebrate through the process. We also hope that we'll all learn more about what makes each of us unique as individuals. So we're hoping that by stepping back and looking at that we can continue to sustain the reduction in HIBs and improve our school culture and climate. Does anybody have any questions?
Just one question. Everything looks great. Has there been any conversation about doing anything to include parents in that culture and climate piece? Like, as parents are part of school culture and climate, maybe informing them about what's happening, and maybe not as much as what we're doing for the students and the teachers, but informing them about the initiatives, or I don't know if that was part of the conversation.
Absolutely. On the school culture and climate teams, we're supposed to have some parent involvement. Okay. Due to the pandemic and the visitor restrictions in the buildings right now, we're trying to find staff members that wear dual or triple hats. Yeah. But yes, we want to continue to expand participation and in informing parents and the community of what our efforts are.
And I don't know if it's because it's more convenient this year via Zoom, but there has been an increase, as I see it, in like parent participation in some of these informational units. So for example, Care Plus just did something last week and we had 20 parents.
The town hall, there was over 20.
And the town hall too. Right? So I think we have to keep building the opportunities in hopes.
Maybe in person and Zoom going forward. Okay, sounds great. Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Good job, Ron. Nice.
Presentation of the HIB report.
And the 95 beat style.
The last thing I have in sort of my section is the HIB report, enrollment reports, and suspension reports. They're in your folders for you, and Ms. Casamento also emailed them to you in the event you were zooming in tonight. Pretty much zeros, but for the record, you have that information in front of you.
Does anybody have any questions about the HIB for Mr. Arlington before we move on? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Arlington. Any other questions for him? No? Okay, thank you. So now we'll have a report of committees, review of resolutions and board discussion. So first up is Finance and Facilities, Mr. Ladati.
Okay, I have the handheld mic here, so I'm just going to use this. For my report, our yearly audit was submitted to the Department of Education. Good news, there were no recommendations or exceptions noted in the report. We will be voting on this evening to accept the audit report for 2019-2020. That's resolution number 6. The auditor will be at our March meeting to review the findings and report to the board. The budget process has begun at the committee level. The committee met last week and reviewed Phase 1 budgets for Harding, guidance, and special education. On February 10th, the committee will review Brearley, curriculum and instruction, and the athletic budgets. Thank you, Vince. The budget reviews are detailed and include informative discussions on instructional programs. The committee also reviewed the long-range facility plan, which is up for consideration this evening, resolution number 12. The submittal this evening allows for the continuation of the ESIP, which is the Energy Savings Program. The committee will have deeper conversations surrounding a potential referendum and projects that needed to be completed. On February 24th, the committee will continue its work with the review of Phase 3 of the budget, which is the school business administrator's documentation. We're also awaiting Governor Murphy's budget address later this month, when we might get some indication of what's happening with school aid. As for some other points on for my report, I just want to thank the custodians and the maintenance guys, and also Vince Ganella and everyone else. The snow removal went very well for over this last week. I also had a question from someone in the public asking if we continue our due diligence on the disinfecting and cleaning of the schools on a nightly basis, and we are. As for resolutions, I'm just going to go over the first 4, which are all the financial ones. I reviewed each and found them all to be in order with no outliers. I covered the other 2 with the audit report and the the long-range facility plan in my report, and I think Kyle covered the other 2. So the other ones are pretty much the normal resolutions that we have in our folder. So if there are any questions, I will take them now on the finance or the facility.
Just in the long range, resolution 12, there's no cost here. Have you figured out about what you're going to be spending, or, because it's not in here? Or are you still working?
It was in the attachment. The costs were in the attachment.
Right.
That's a rough estimate.
Okay.
We are still working on the more details of what it is. We need to put them in different batches and prioritize them at this point.
And the attachment is somewhere.
Well, I know it's difficult because I know the packet this month was 618 pages long, and the finance part of it was a major part of that. So I know it's hard to get through every single line of it. And if you need that information, I can get it to you or show you where it is on the report.
What page this might be on in this 10,000 thing. Just an idea of, if it's a long range, about what you're thinking of. Okay.
Well, it includes the referendum piece, so it's.
What was the question, Vince?
The question.
Or Anthony?
It was the cost on the long-range facility projects. She was looking for the cost. And I know on the packet, at least on my computer, it's on page 190. I don't know if you have yours there, so I think it starts around there.
Just a guesstimate.
Well, it's hard to give a guesstimate because each project has a rough estimate associated with it. And I think we would
further conversations have to happen as to which projects are the priorities. So it's a long list of needed, items that need attention.
So it's not something that you have planned already?
No.
No.
Okay.
No,
I mean, the whole
no.
purpose,
right.
don't forget, the whole purpose of the long-range facility plan is to throw everything out there so the state knows what your potential needs are. Right here, it says it's between 28 and 38 million dollars.
Okay.
Okay? But that includes everything, we understand that that's not reality. But if someone were to give us $38 million, we could do it. So that's where it's coming from.
And we can't leave it short-sighted, if you want to call it that. I mean, we need to put down everything potentially that we need or would want on that plan, so the state knows about it, like Vince said. So it's a wish list.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else, questions for Mr. Ladati? No? Okay, thank you, Mr. Ladati. Next up,
You want the
Personnel
mics?
Management, Mr. Habecker. Kyle, if they want to leave, I don't know. If they wanna-
Okay, good evening, everybody. There's 6 resolutions for personnel management. Resolution 13 is the approves a hire of special ed paraprofessional aides. Resolution 14 approves home instruction. Resolution 15 approves student teachers from New Jersey City University and Kane University. Resolution 16 is the approval of 2020-2021 extracurricular stipends. Resolution 17 approves the assistant coach sidebar agreement. And Resolution 18 approves the 2020-2021 athletic stipend positions. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Habecker. Next up, Curriculum and Instruction, Mr. Jankowicz. Mr.
Are
Jankowicz,
we
can
ready
you
for
hear me?
curriculum, or?
Yeah.
Maybe there should be nothing, Can you hear? No? Mr. Jankowicz, Curriculum
Sure.
and Instruction?
Yep, so the committee did not meet, so really 2 resolutions this evening. The first is curriculum adoption for general music, K through 6, and then criminal justice, that's resolution 19, and then resolution 20 is the HIB report for approval of the HIB report for December. That's it. Anyone have any questions?
No? Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Jankowicz. Next, Policy, Mrs. Braun?
We have several resolutions under policy review. Resolution 21 is a first reading for Regulation 7425, lead testing of water in schools. It's mandatory, and it reflects changes in code and requires districts to test for lead in water outlets within the schools every 3rd year instead of every 6 years. Resolution 22 is second reading to adopt policy and regulations regarding the seizure action plan. It's mandatory. Resolution 23 has a number of policies and regulations to adopt revisions. Basically, it is minor revisions to update language and code per the ESSA. These are all mandated. And Resolution 24 is an abolishment of several policies and a regulation. The first 2 policies, academic standards and highly qualified teachers. Those are both mandated, and they were eliminated by the ESSA. And then policy and regulation 7430, school safety, those are eliminated because they are no longer required, as the legal requirements within that policy and regulation are found in other existing policies and regulations. And that's all.
Should I go and get that mic? Sure. Any questions? Thank you.
No,
Any questions for Mrs. Braun?
I have none.
Yes? No?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Braun. Okay, any old business? Anybody? Old business? No? Okay. New business? Mr.
That are occurring. He followed up saying he thought one game was on, but is that happening for all?
Yeah, so it's totally new territory for us. Friday was our first one, and basketball was recorded today. So with Mr. Rodriguez's help, Mr. Davies, we were just talking about that being the sort of new norm. So we could have it for all indoor sporting events.
Website or
Not yet, because today was just our sophomore attempt at it, but it will be.
Yeah, so right now, they're videotaping it, and then it's being posted to YouTube. We're going to be talking to Ms. Martin's going to be talking to Mr. Miller about possibly live streaming it. But we need some student input to get that moving. So it doesn't work without student involvement, so.
I assume that those efforts are underway and we're getting a response. Okay.
So will we need costs to hire somebody to?
Hopefully not.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
On that note, we would like to wish all of our student athletes and coaches good luck on their winter sports season. And as Mr. Ladati mentioned, we wanted to extend our appreciation and thanks to Mr. Vanderzee, the supervisor of Buildings and Grounds, and the entire Buildings and Grounds Department for the multiple snow removals they conducted. And lastly, we would like to take a moment to recognize and celebrate Black History Month by highlighting the courage of African Americans in the face of adversity and the perseverance to move forward. So I've selected 2 lessons from history that reflect those notions. One is, hate is too great a burden to bear. It injures the hater more than it injures the hated, Coretta Scott King. And the second is Frederick Douglass. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. So thank you. Anybody else? New business? No? Okay.
No, ma'am.
Is this, sorry, is this new business or old business?
New business.
New? Okay, I just got a quick question for maybe perhaps Kyle. I noticed, or I understand the National Honor Society, the induction was moved, where it's typically in December, it was moved to the spring. Any reason for that? Like what's driving that? I thought it was like a national program with this, but from my understanding, it's taking place later for us.
I'll get back to you on that, Mr. Jankowicz. I actually remember it being in the early spring last year, actually. So I'd have to.
Oh, was okay.
I'd have to fact check that. It's a national program, but I think districts have the kind of purview to have the ceremony when they see fit. But I'll follow up with you on that to get more details.
Yep. Perfect. Nothing urgent. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. So now at this time, we will open up the meeting for public comments. Yeah. Is there a motion? Oh, thank you. Is there a motion to open to the public?
I make a motion.
Motion? Second? Okay, motioned by Mrs. Braun, seconded by Mrs. Drogan. All those in favor of opening the meeting to the public?
Aye.
Thank you.
Public comment, it will now be accepted. The Board of Education sets the time limit for the public to speak at the board meeting to 5 minutes per person unless prior permission has been granted by the Board of Education for extended time pursuant to Board of Education Policy Bylaw 0167. Public comments are being accepted by the following means: by calling into the Meeting venue via 908-931-9696, extension 2325, or in person at the board venue, which there is no one here currently, or electronically via public comments at publicschools.com by the 4 o'clock deadline, of which we received none. So that leaves us with the possibility of some people calling in via 908-931-9696, extension 2325. And as you know, we are on a little bit of a time delay between the live stream and real time. So we will allow for approximately a 1-minute delay, and we'll take it from there. Okay, I don't think we're going to have anyone calling in, so.
Public?
Thank you. Motion made by Mr. Ladati, seconded by Mr. Braun to close the meeting to the public. All in favor, please say.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Ganello, are we prepared to vote on resolutions?
Yes, we are. First up is resolutions 1 through 12 on the agenda, which are Finance and Facility Committee resolutions. Mr. Ladati?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to have the Facilities and Finance Resolution move to a vote.
I'll second.
All right, motion's made by Ladati, seconded by Mr. Viner. Are there any resolutions that need to be voted on separately? No? Okay. And this is for resolutions 1 through 12 on the agenda. Viner?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Drogan?
Yes.
Haberthur? Yes. Jankowicz?
Yes.
Ladati?
Yes.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Panici?
Yes.
Motion's carried unanimously. Next up are Personnel and Management Resolutions 13 through 18 on the agenda. Mr. Haberthur?
Before I make the motion, I did forget to mention that the Personnel Committee will be meeting next week for fiscal year 22 staffing review. And with that, I make a motion to move resolutions 13 through 18 to be voted on.
I'll second.
Okay. Motions were made by Mr. Haberthur, seconded by Mr. Viner. This is for resolutions, Personnel Management Resolutions 13 through 18 on the agenda. Are there any that need to be voted on separately? None? Okay. Viner?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Drogan?
Yes.
Haberthur? Jankowicz?
Yes.
Ladati?
Yes.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Panici?
Yes.
Motion's carried unanimously. Okay, next up is Curriculum and Instruction Resolutions 19 and 20. Mr. Jankowicz?
Sure. I would like to make a move 19 and 20.
Okay.
I'll second.
Viner? Okay, this is resolutions 19, 20 on the agenda. Do any of those resolutions need to be voted on separately? Okay. Resolution 19 through 20, curriculum instruction. Mr. Viner?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Drogan?
Yes.
Haberthur?
Yes.
Jankowicz? Mr. Jankowicz?
Yes.
Ladati?
Yes.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Panici?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. And finally, policy resolutions 21 through 24.
I make a motion to move policy, the resolutions 21 through 24 for voting.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Mrs. Braun, seconded by Mr. Biner. Do any of those resolutions, 21 through 24, need to be voted on separately? Okay, Mr. Biner,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Drogan,
Yes.
Haberther, Jankowicz,
Yes.
Wadati,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Panici.
Yes.
Motion's carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Ganella. Do we need to go into closed executive session?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Can I please have a motion to go into closed session, please?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mrs. Drogan. Your second? Second by Mr. Haberthur. Thank you.
Okay, 8:21. Okay, the Board of Education, resolve the Board of Education meet in private session from which the public shall be excluded to discuss the topics of negotiation and student personnel matters, which private discussion is being held pursuant to Section 7B and 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. Matters under discussion will be disclosed to the public as soon as final decisions are made and voted upon. The Board of Education is going into closed executive session to discuss the above matters, but will not be taking any further action this evening. The meeting will adjourn at the end of the executive session. Therefore, this will conclude the live YouTube portion of the meeting. Thank you for your participation this evening. The Board of Education looks forward to meeting in person when the restrictions have lifted. Okay. All in favor of me going into closed session?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We are in closed session.